The first thing I remembered after I died was the sound of my own name being whispered like it belonged to a criminal. Not screamed. Not accused loudly. Whispered. That was worse because whispers spread into places shouting never reaches. In my first life, I found Liana Vale's phone under the third-floor stairwell on the morning of the lockdown drill, screened down beside a crushed grape juice box and a glitter charm shaped like a crown. I returned it without looking inside, because that was what good girls did. Good girls did not snoop. Good girls did not take revenge. Good girls handed evidence back to the person who had been slowly poisoning their life since freshman orientation and hoped the universe kept score. The universe, apparently, had been asleep. 2 hours after I returned that phone, the whole school was sealed into silent classrooms, lights off, doors locked, backpacks shoved against windows, and my phone buzzed with an anonymous message that said, "Check under your desk before the police do." I froze. My teacher froze. The girl beside me started crying without making a sound. There was nothing dangerous under my desk, only a printed screenshot I had never seen before, a fake chat with my name at the top, making it look like I had planned to turn a drill into a panic for attention. By the end of that day, I was escorted past lockers while students stared at me through the cracks of classroom doors. By the end of that week, my scholarship was under review. By the end of that month, my mother stopped asking why I did not want to go back to school and started asking whether I had done something she should know about. By the end of that year, Liana Vale gave a graduation speech about kindness while wearing the same crown charm on her wrist. And by the end of my life, which came much earlier than it should have, all I could remember was the weight of her phone in my palm and the stupid purity of handing it back unopened. So when I blinked awake again to the squeal of hallway shoes, the smell of floor wax, and the morning announcement reminding everyone that the annual lockdown drill would begin after second period, I did not move. I was standing at the third-floor stairwell. A grape juice box bled purple into the tile. A glitter crown charm caught the fluorescent light. And Liana Vale's phone was lying screened down at my feet, waiting for me to make the same mistake twice. I did not pick it up at first. That was the part nobody tells you about being reborn. Your body remembers fear before your brain remembers strategy. My hand hovered over the phone, shaking so hard the loose thread on my blazer sleeve trembled. Down the hall, the debate team was arguing about poster glue. Someone laughed near the vending machines. The school nurse pushed a cart past the elevator with a stack of blue emergency folders for the drill. Everything looked innocent, which made it monstrous. In my first life, this was the exact minute I had rushed to the front office, proud of myself, stupidly relieved that I could prove I was better than the girl who shoved me out of group projects and called it leadership. I had not known that kindness can become a weapon when offered to someone who has already sharpened the handle. This time, I slid my foot over the phone instead. I glanced up, down, behind me. No teachers. No students close enough to see the screen. The security camera above the stairwell blinked red. In the old timeline, that camera had captured me picking up the phone, and Liana later used that footage to suggest I had tampered with it. This time, I bent as if tying my shoe, slipped my own phone from my skirt pocket, and recorded the ground, the grape juice, the crown charm, the timestamp, and the hallway around me before I touched anything. Then I used 2 fingers to lift Liana's phone by the edge. The screen lit up. No passcode request. Just a notification preview stacked on top of another notification preview, because Liana Vale was arrogant enough to believe the world existed to protect her secrets. Mara found it, one message said. My name. My breath vanished. Another message slid in beneath it from a chat called Lockdown Fun. Make sure she gives it back before the drill. Need her prints. I felt the hallway tilt, not because I was shocked, but because some part of me, the broken girl from the first life, had waited years to hear the universe admit it had watched. The phone buzzed again. Don't let her open the bully, chat lol. There it was. The trap and the confession in one careless line. My thumb hovered. I could open it. I could see everything. I could sprint to the principal with the evidence. I could become the girl who saved herself before the story even started. Instead, from the far end of the hall, Liana's voice sliced through the noise like perfume sprayed over smoke. Oh my gosh, Mara. Is that my phone? And in that half second, I understood the second trap. If I opened it now, in the camera's view, before anyone else saw the notification, she would say I invaded her privacy. She would cry. People loved her tears because she rationed them like diamonds. So I locked the screen, smiled with a calmness that felt borrowed from someone older and crueler, and said, I was just about to turn it in. Liana Vale came toward me with her two shadows, Brielle and Suri, floating behind her in perfect formation. She was beautiful in the way expensive notebooks are beautiful on the first day of school, smooth, bright, and designed to make everyone else feel messy. Her hair was curled at the ends, her lip gloss was the kind teachers pretended not to notice, and her blazer had been tailored so subtly that it still looked regulation, while making the rest of us look like we had borrowed ours from lost property. In my first life, she had taken the phone from me with a trembling smile and said, You're so honest, Mara. I really admire that. In this life, I watched her eyes flick to the security camera, then to my fingers, then to my face. She wanted to know if I had seen the notifications. She wanted fear. I gave her boredom. Front office is that way, I said, holding the phone out but not releasing it when she reached. Her smile twitched. It's mine. I know. Then why are you being weird? Brielle asked, already performing outrage for the invisible audience. I turned my own phone screen outward. It was still recording, tucked half behind my sleeve, the red timer visible only to me. Because school policy says lost valuables go to the office. Suri laughed. Since when do you care about policy? That almost made me laugh, because in the old life they had called me a rule freak until they needed me framed as a rule breaker. Liana stepped closer and lowered her voice. Mara, don't embarrass yourself.
Give it to me. It was not a request.
It was the tone she used when teachers were too far away to hear. I looked at her hand, perfectly manicured, reaching for the phone that had ruined me once. Then I did something small enough to seem harmless and deliberate enough to split the day open later. I let it fall. Not far. Just from my hand to the floor between us, where the grape juice had spread thinly across the tile. The phone landed face up, screen waking again, notifications glowing for all three of them to see. Lockdown fun. Need her prints. Brielle sucked in a breath. Suri whispered, Liana. Liana's face changed so quickly that if I had blinked, I would have missed the real one underneath.
Panic.
Then calculation. Then injured innocence, the mask sliding down like a curtain. Why would you drop my phone? She said loudly, and there it was, the opening note of the performance.
Students turned.
A classroom door cracked. I raised both hands. I didn't want to keep holding it after that message popped up. The hallway went quieter, not silent, but quieter in the way a cafeteria goes quiet when a tray falls and everyone waits to see who is embarrassed. Liana bent fast, snatched the phone, and pressed it to her chest. You read my private messages? No, I said. Your lock screen did. It was the first clean cut of the day. She felt it. I saw it in the way her jaw tightened. But she recovered because Liana had not survived on beauty alone. She had survived on speed. That's not what it looks like, she said. Then you should be excited to show the principal, I replied. The front office smelled like lemon cleaner, panic, and printer toner. That was another memory I had not asked to keep. In my first life, I had sat in the plastic chair beside the attendance window while Liana cried into a tissue and told Assistant Principal Harrow that she felt unsafe because I had been obsessed with her all year. She had brought screenshots. She had brought witnesses. She had brought a story with edges already sanded smooth. I had brought nothing except the truth, and the truth looked embarrassingly naked beside a prepared lie. This time I did not sit until someone told me to. I walked straight to the counter and said, I found a lost phone with a concerning notification about today's lockdown drill. I need to turn it in with a staff witness. The receptionist, Mrs. Bell, looked up sharply. People underestimate office staff. Students think power lives in principals' offices, but Mrs. Bell knew every parent's custody arrangement, every teacher's allergy, every student who lied about dentist appointments, and exactly which seniors parked without permits. Her eyes moved from my face to Liana's stiff smile to the phone clutched too tightly in Liana's hand. Whose phone? Mine, Liana said, sweet again. Mara grabbed it and dropped it, and now she's making up some weird story because she saw a private joke. Mrs. Bell did not smile back. Hand it here. Liana hesitated. It was tiny. Fatal. The old me would have filled that pause with explanation, desperate to be understood, making myself smaller with every word. The new me let silence do the heavy lifting. Mrs. Bell held out her palm. Now, please. Liana handed it over. The screen was locked, but another notification rolled in as if the universe had finally developed a flair for drama. Lockdown fun. If she panics, record it. Mrs. Bell's mouth flattened. Everyone in conference room, too. Brielle tried to vanish into her phone. Suri looked like she might be sick. Liana said, "It's not serious. It's just conference room 2, Mrs. Bell repeated and pressed a button on her desk phone. Mr. Harrow, I need you. Now. The lockdown drill warning bell chimed once overhead, not the drill itself yet, just the pre-drill alert teachers got 5 minutes early. My heart rammed against my ribs. 5 minutes. In the first life, this was when Liana had been deleting messages in a bathroom while I waited outside the office like an obedient idiot. This time, her phone was on Mrs. Bell's desk and the messages were still arriving. Pattern interrupt. Liana Vale, queen of perfect timing, had lost control of the clock. Conference room 2 had a scratched oval table, 6 chairs, and a poster about digital citizenship peeling at one corner. I remembered staring at that poster in my first life while Mr. Harrow asked me why multiple students would lie about me if nothing had happened. I remembered wanting to say, because lying together is easier than standing alone, but my throat had been swollen with terror. This time, I sat with my back straight and my hands folded. Liana sat across from me, chin trembling just enough to look wounded. Brielle and Suri flanked her, but the formation had cracks now. Brielle kept rubbing her thumb against the side of her nail. Suri would not look at the phone, which Mrs. Bell had placed in the center of the table like evidence in a crime show. Mr. Harrow entered with his radio clipped to his belt and his drill folder under one arm. He looked older than I remembered, or maybe I was older inside now. What's going on? He asked. Liana spoke, first of course. Mara took my phone and read private messages. There was a joke in a group chat and she's trying to twist it because she doesn't like me. She blinked quickly, summoning moisture. I know she's had a hard time making friends, but this is scary. There it was. The soft knife. Not Mara is evil. That would be too crude. Mara is lonely. Mara is unstable. Mara wants attention. Mr. Harrow looked at me. In the old life, that look had made me collapse into explanations. Today, I said, I recorded myself finding the phone before I touched it. I did not open any chats. The lock screen displayed messages about getting my fingerprints before the lockdown drill and recording me if I panicked. I came to the office because the messages referenced a school safety procedure. Then I stopped.
No begging. No trembling.
No extra words for Liana to twist into rope. Mr. Harrow's expression shifted. You recorded? I placed my phone on the table and played the video. My voice from 5 minutes earlier filled the room, calm but breathless. 3rd floor stairwell, 9:52 a.m., phone found screen down, crown charm, grape juice spill, no one nearby. The video showed me turning in a slow circle, the camera, the hallway, then the phone lighting with notifications. Mara found it. Make sure she gives it back before the drill. Need her prints. Don't let her open the bully chat lol. Nobody spoke after the video ended. The silence was no longer my enemy. It belonged to them. Then the real lockdown drill began. The alarm did not scream like a fire bell. It pulsed low and ugly through the speakers, followed by the principal's recorded voice. This is a lockdown drill. Locks, lights, out of sight. In my first life, that sound had swallowed me. This time, it arrived like a judge entering a courtroom. Mr. Harrow reached for his radio, but before he could speak, Liana's phone buzzed again. The screen flashed under the conference room lights. Mrs. Bell read the preview aloud before anyone could stop her.
Now.
Put it under her desk. Brielle made a small choking sound. Suri whispered, Oh my God. Liana stood so fast her chair scraped backward. That's not me. Mr. Harrow's eyes snapped to her. Sit down. No, you don't understand. Other people are in that chat.
I didn't send that.
Sit down, Liana. But she did not. For the first time in either life, Liana looked less like a queen and more like a student who had forgotten her lines in front of a full auditorium. Her hand darted toward the phone. Mrs. Bell picked it up first. Liana froze. The radio crackled on Mr. Harrow's belt. Admin, room 214 reporting a student found printed material taped under a desk. Name on it is Mara Ellison. My old life crawled up my spine with icy fingers. Room 214. My English classroom. My desk. The planted paper had still been placed. The plan had not stopped just because the phone was intercepted. That meant someone else was moving. That meant the trap had multiple hands. Pattern interrupt. I had saved the phone, but the story had teeth I had not seen the first time. Mr. Harrow stared at me, then at Liana. Liana whispered, "See?" It was almost impressive how quickly she tried to ride the disaster back into control. See, she planned this. She knew where it would be. My stomach twisted, but I did not let it reach my face. "No," I said. The message said, "Put it under her desk." That means whoever planted it is still following instructions from that chat. Mrs. Bell was already moving. "I'll call security to room 214. Mr. Harrow spoke into the radio, voice clipped. "Hold the drill." Real admin response. "Secure all students in place. Security to 214. Do not touch the item." Then he looked at Liana. "Unlock your phone." She said nothing. "Liana, unlock it." She cried then. Not the pretty tears. The ugly ones she had never shown teachers because ugly tears do not photograph well in sympathy. "My dad will sue," she said. That was her first honest sentence. Not, "I didn't do it." Not, "I'm scared. My dad will sue." Mr. Harrow's face hardened. "Unlock the phone, or we involve police and your parents immediately." "You need a warrant," Brielle blurted, which would have been funnier if my hands were not cold. Mrs. Bell looked at her over the rim of her glasses. "This is a school safety matter during an active drill, and the phone is already displaying messages about disrupting it. You can explain your legal theories later." Suri started crying quietly. "I didn't plant anything," she said. Liana turned on her so fast the mask ripped. "Shut up."
There.
2 words. Small, vicious, real. Everyone heard them. Suri flinched like she had been slapped. In the first life, Suri had signed a statement saying she saw me printing fake screenshots in the library. I had hated her for years. Watching her now, pale and shaking, I realized hatred is easy when you cannot see the leash. "Suri," I said softly, and her eyes jumped to mine. "Who is in the chat?" Liana slammed her palm on the table. "Don't talk to her." Mr. Harrow's voice cut through. "Liana, sit down and unlock the phone." The radio crackled again. "Security in 214. We have the printed sheet. Also a student in the hallway outside the room. Says she was going to the bathroom." Mr. Harrow closed his eyes for half a second. Name? Static. Then, Nina Park. Nina Park. In my first life, Nina had been invisible, one of Liana's orbiters from yearbook club, always holding a camera, always laughing half a second late. She had recorded my breakdown during the lockdown and uploaded it to a private story that somehow everyone saw by lunch. I had not known she planted the paper. My memory rearranged itself with a click so loud I almost heard it. Liana's phone buzzed again, in Mrs. Bell's hand. Preview. "Nina? Answer me." The sender name was not hidden. Liana herself. No heart emoji, no nickname, just her name beside the rope. Mr. Harrow did not need the passcode after that to know enough, but he needed the whole thing. The drill remained frozen around us, a building full of students crouched in corners while the lie that had killed my first life began bleeding out in conference room 2. Liana finally unlocked the phone with shaking hands and shoved it toward him like the screen burned. "It was a joke," she said. "It got out of hand." "A joke is when everyone laughs," Mrs. Bell said. "This looks like a coordinated attempt to frame a student during a safety drill." I wanted to thank her. I wanted to ask where she had been in the first timeline. But of course, she had been there. I had just never given her anything to hold. Mr. Harrow opened the chat. I did not look at first. I was afraid that seeing the words would turn me back into the girl who had drowned in them. Then I remembered dying with my name still dirty in other people's mouths, and I made myself read. Lockdown Fun had 16 members. Some names I knew. Some I had never suspected. There were messages from weeks ago. Pictures of me eating lunch alone, edits of my scholarship announcement, polls asking what expression I would make when I got accused. They had nicknames for me. Saint Mara. Scholarship Rat. Lost and Found Girl. My throat tightened, but beneath the hurt came something cleaner and sharper. Proof. Liana had written, "She'll return anything. She's addicted to being good." Brielle had replied, "So use that." Nina had posted a photo of the fake screenshot draft. Suri had sent one message 3 days earlier. "This is too much." Liana had answered, "Then leave and see what happens to your recommendation."
I stared at that line.
Suri's mother worked 2 jobs. Suri needed Liana's father's foundation letter for a summer program. The leash had a name. It did not absolve her. It explained the shape of her fear. Mr. Harrow scrolled, face darkening with every message. Then he stopped at one sent that morning from Liana. "Mara finds my phone near stairs. She brings it back. Prints on phone. During drill Nina puts sheet under desk. Brielle says she saw Mara acting weird. Suri backs it. I cry. Harrow handles rest. My name sat in their plan like a chair pulled out for an execution. I waited for the old nausea. Instead, I felt still. Liana had not destroyed me because she was smarter. She had destroyed me because I had walked into the scene believing the script was about morality. It had always been about staging. Security brought Nina to the office 10 minutes later, and the drill ended with a confused announcement about administrative adjustments. Around the school, students emerged from dark corners buzzing with rumors, but this time the rumors did not have my name at the center, not cleanly. They had fragments. Liana's phone, room 214, fake screenshots, Nina caught outside English, admin holding people in conference room 2. Rumors hate empty space. They breed in it. The difference was, now the empty space was around Liana. Nina folded in less than 3 minutes. I did not see the whole interview, but I heard enough through the conference room wall while Mrs. Bell sat with me in the nurse's office and made me drink water I did not want. Nina kept saying, "Liana told me it was harmless." Then, Brielle printed it. Then, Suri said she wouldn't tell. Then a wail. I can't get suspended. My parents will kill me. In my first life, I had been alone when I cried. Their tears had an audience, tissues, adults leaning forward to understand. I expected that to enrage me. It did, but not in a hot way. More like a door locking. Mrs. Bell asked whether I wanted to call my mother. The question knocked air from my lungs. In the old timeline, my mother had arrived after the accusation had already hardened. She had looked at me in the office with fear disguised as sternness because she did not know whether to protect me from the school or the school from me. She had loved me, but doubt had entered the room before her. This time, I said yes. When Mom arrived, still in her pharmacy scrubs, hair escaping her clip, she found me holding a paper cup of water, while Liana Vale sat outside Mr. Harrow's office with mascara under her eyes and no throne left. My mother looked from her to me. Mara? One word. A whole childhood inside it. I stood. I wanted to be elegant, untouchable, reborn as steel. Instead, I crossed the room and hugged her so hard the paper cup crushed between us. I didn't do anything, I whispered, and hated how young I sounded. Mom's arms tightened instantly. I know, she said. Not what happened. Not, are you sure? I know. Pattern interrupt. The sentence I had waited a lifetime to hear arrived before the accusation did. By noon, parents were being called. By 1, the school's legal liaison was in the building. By 2, Liana's father arrived with a lawyer who wore a navy suit and an expression that had probably frightened adults more powerful than Mr. Harrow. He expected a trembling scholarship girl. He expected a messy situation that could be polished into misunderstanding. He expected the school to fear his donations, his foundation, his name on the new performing arts wing. He did not expect Mrs. Bell to have already printed the notification logs visible on the lock screen before the phone was unlocked. He did not expect Mr. Harrow to have secured hallway footage showing Nina entering room 214 during the pre-drill window with folded paper under her blazer. He did not expect my video, which showed the phone untouched on the floor and messages arriving before Liana could claim I fabricated them. Most importantly, he did not expect his daughter's own written plan, sitting in a chat with timestamps, names, and replies. I watched him read it through the office glass. His face did not soften with fatherly disappointment. It hardened with brand management. That told me everything I needed to know about where Liana learned to treat people like props. The lawyer asked whether the matter could be handled internally to protect all students involved. My mother, who had been silent long enough for everyone to underestimate her, said, "My daughter is one of the students involved." The lawyer gave a practice nod. Of course. Mom leaned forward.
No.
Not of course. You mean protect the students who planned it. It was the first time I had ever seen my mother scare a man in an expensive suit. I wanted to bottle the moment and wear it around my neck. The school decided on emergency removals, pending investigation. Liana, Brielle, Nina, and 2 boys from the chat were sent home. Suri was separated, questioned, and not allowed near me. Before Liana left, she turned in the office doorway. For one breath, nobody else was looking.
Her tears stopped.
Her eyes found mine, flat and venomous. In the first life, that look would have promised my ruin. In this life, it promised an attempt. I believed her. She mouthed, "You opened it." I mouthed back, "You unlocked it." Her face went white. That should have been the end. It was not. People think exposure is a lightning strike, bright, violent, finished. It is actually weather. It rolls through everything, floods places you forgot were low, and leaves mud even after the sky clears. The next morning, the school was split into 3 countries. One believed Liana was framed because rich, pretty girls do not look like villains to people who benefit from their invitations. One believed I was innocent but probably had drama with them, because some people cannot accept cruelty unless the victim helped build the knife. The last country was silent, watching to see who would win before applying for citizenship. I came to school anyway. My mother wanted me to stay home. Mr. Harrow offered remote work for a week. Even Mrs. Bell said, gently, that nobody would think less of me. But I had hidden in my first life. I had eaten lunch in bathroom stalls, deleted social media, flinched whenever someone laughed behind me. Hiding had not protected me. It had only given everyone else the stage. So I walked through the front doors at 8:12 a.m. with my hair tied back, my blazer clean, and a copy of my statement in my bag. The hallway changed volume when students saw me. Not silent. Adjusted. That was fine. Let them adjust. At my locker, someone had taped a sticky note that said Saint Mara in block letters. A few students nearby watched, hungry for reaction. I peeled it off slowly, took out a pen, added a halo over the A, and stuck it back on the locker beside mine, which belonged to a football player named Theo, who had once barked when Liana called me her rescue project. The watchers blinked. I said, "Wrong locker," and walked away. Small laughter followed me. Not much. Enough. Pattern interrupt. Humiliation only works when you agree to hold still for it. In English, my desk had been moved. Not by me. The old desk, the one from room 214, was gone, probably taken as evidence or because the school finally realized nobody should have to sit inside the chalk outline of a lie. My new seat was by the window. Sunlight cut across the page when Mrs. Ansell began class with a voice too careful to be normal. Today we're continuing our unit on unreliable narrators. Half the class looked at me. I almost laughed. Literature has timing no administrator can plan. Mrs. Ansell asked what makes a narrator unreliable, and silence spread because everyone was afraid the answer had teeth. I raised my hand. Sometimes they leave things out because they're protecting themselves, I said. Sometimes they lie because they want control. And sometimes the audience is unreliable because they believe the version that entertains them most. Mrs. Ansell stared at me for a second, then wrote it on the board. The class copied it down. That was the first time my words entered the room as something other than defense. At lunch, Suri approached me near the courtyard vending machines with red eyes and both hands visible, like I was an animal she did not want to startle. "Can I talk to you?" she asked. Every part of me wanted to say no. In the first life, her statement had helped bury me. In this life, her "this is too much" message had complicated the grave. I said, "You can talk. I may not answer." She nodded as if that was more mercy than she expected. Liana said if I didn't back her up, her dad would pull my recommendation. And she had screenshots of me complaining about my scholarship interview. She said she'd make me look ungrateful. Her voice cracked. "I know that's not an excuse."
"It isn't," I said.
She flinched but nodded. "I'm giving a full statement. I told them everything, even the stuff that makes me look bad." "Good." She wiped her cheek.
"I'm sorry, Mara."
The apology landed strangely. I had imagined apologies as keys. They are not. They do not unlock the past. Sometimes they are just receipts proving someone finally noticed the damage. "Do not ask me to forgive you so you can feel brave," I said. She swallowed. "Okay." Then she did something Liana never would have done. She left without trying to manage my opinion of her. That did not heal anything. It did mark a difference. The investigation widened by Friday. That was when the second phone appeared. Not Liana's.
Mine.
In my first life, my phone had been searched after the fake screenshot, and somehow a thread appeared in my deleted messages that made me look guilty. I had never understood how. I thought maybe they had fake screenshots well enough that adults believed them. This time, because I still had access to my phone, because I was not in shock, because rebirth had turned paranoia into a survival skill, I checked my cloud backups, app logins, and message history before anyone asked. There was a login from a school library computer at 8:43 a.m. on the morning of the drill. My password had been changed and changed back within 4 minutes. The security questions were answered using information from a get-to-know-you worksheet Liana had collected during Peer Mentor Week. Mother's middle name, first pet, childhood street. I stared at the login record until the edges blurred. The trap had not only used kindness. It had used every harmless little fact I had handed to school, to friends, to icebreakers designed by adults who believed sharing made us safe. I printed the records at home while my mother stood beside me, one hand over her mouth. "This is identity theft," she said. "It's high school," I said automatically, then stopped. That was old life thinking. Shrinking crimes until adults could fit them into detention.
No, y correcte.
You're right. On Monday, Mom and I brought the login records to Mr. Harrow. His face turned the color of wet paper. The library logs showed Brielle had booked computer station 6 during first period. Camera footage showed her sitting there with Liana leaning over her shoulder. Brielle, who had always played the dumb Echo, the glittery backup singer, had been the tech hand. When she was called in, she denied everything until Mr. Harrow said the words, "unauthorized account access." Then she folded, but not like Nina. Nina had collapsed outward. Brielle collapsed inward, face sharpening with resentment. Liana said Mara deserved to know what it felt like to be watched, she snapped. She said Mara acts innocent but judges everyone. I almost smiled. There it was, the moral injury of bullies. They do not hate you because you harm them. They hate you because your existence makes their cruelty visible to themselves. Brielle looked at me with wet, furious eyes. "You think you're better than us?" I answered honestly.
No.
"I think I'm responsible for what I do. You should try it." Mr. Harrow coughed into his hand, badly hiding something that might have been a laugh. Brielle hated me more for that than for the evidence. By the second week, Liana was no longer at school. Officially, she was on temporary leave pending outcome. Unofficially, her father was negotiating, threatening, donating, withdrawing, and discovering that a public school with a documented safety drill sabotage incident could not simply bury it under a new scoreboard. The police liaison got involved because of the account access and the planted material. Parents from room 214 were furious that their children had been used as background actors in a fake threat during a lockdown drill. That mattered. In my first life, The story had been Mara Ellison, unstable scholarship girl, frightening classmates. This time, the story was privileged students manipulating emergency procedures and digital evidence to frame a classmate.
Different headline.
Different oxygen. Still, revenge did not taste the way I had expected. I had imagined sweetness, maybe. A clean cinematic satisfaction as Liana's perfect life cracked. Instead, I felt tired. Not regretful. Never that. But tired in my bones from understanding how many systems had to fail for a girl like Liana to become possible. Teachers who laughed off girl drama. Administrators who preferred smooth lies to complicated truths. Students who clicked, shared, voted, reacted, and later claimed they didn't know it was serious. Parents who turned kindness into branding and consequences into negotiations. I started carrying a notebook where I wrote every fact before meetings, every date, every name, every sentence someone said that mattered. My mother called it my war journal. I called it insurance. Mrs. Bell called me into the office one afternoon and handed me a folder. "For your records," she said. Inside were copies of my incident statement, the initial administrative finding, and a note confirming I was not under investigation. I ran my fingers over that last line longer than necessary. In the first life, nobody had ever given me a sentence that clean.
"Thank you," I said.
Mrs. Bell nodded. "For what it's worth, I'm sorry we didn't see it earlier." I wanted to be gracious. I wanted to say it was okay. It was not okay. So I said, "See the next one earlier." Her eyes softened. "We will." Adults love promising the future when the past is already ruined. But this time I believed she might try. The formal hearing happened 3 weeks after the drill in the district office, a building with beige walls, bad coffee, and motivational posters about integrity that made my mother mutter under her breath. I wore a navy dress and low shoes. Liana wore white. I almost admired the audacity. White blouse, white cardigan, pearl clips, bare trembling face. She looked like someone's daughter in a hospital scene. Her father sat on one side, lawyer beside him. Brielle's parents sat behind them, stiff with anger that seemed aimed at whoever had failed to make their child's confession disappear. Nina's mother cried quietly. Suri came with her aunt, not Liana's foundation representative, and kept her eyes on the table. The district panel reviewed the evidence for 2 hours. My video, the lock screen notifications, the unlocked chat, the planted paper, the library login, the printed fake screenshots, the statements. Liana's lawyer tried to separate the pieces. The phone was a joke. The planted paper was Nina acting independently. The account access was Brielle going too far. The chat was teenage exaggeration. The pattern, he argued, did not prove central intent. I listened to him try to turn a machine back into a pile of screws. Then the panel chair asked whether I wanted to speak. My mother squeezed my hand under the table. I stood. In my first life, I had never been allowed a full room. I had spoken in fragments between accusations, always interrupted by someone else's version of me. This time, everyone had to listen. I returned the phone in another life. I almost said. The sentence rose to my tongue, impossible and true. Instead, I said, I found a lost phone and did what students are told to do. The messages on the lock screen showed that my honesty had been predicted and weaponized. The plan was not a joke because it required adults to believe I was dangerous. It was not private drama because it used a lockdown drill, a classroom, school technology, and other students' fear. It was not one person going too far because the chat shows roles assigned to different people. I cannot tell you what consequence fixes that. I can only tell you what does not fix it, calling it a misunderstanding because the truth is inconvenient. My voice shook once. I let it. Strength is not the absence of shaking. It is refusing to hand the microphone to the tremor. Liana stared at the table. Her father whispered something to the lawyer. The panel chair thanked me. I sat down, and my mother's hand was warm around mine. Liana spoke after me. That was the last performance. She cried before the first word, but the room had read the script by then. Tears without truth are just water. I was jealous, she whispered. Mara always seemed so perfect, and I felt like everyone compared us. That was new. In the old life, She had never needed motive because the lie had made me the motive. Now she reached for vulnerability the way drowning people reach for anything floating. It started as venting. Then people kept adding ideas. I didn't think anyone would actually get hurt. Suri made a sound, half laugh, half sob. Liana's eyes flicked toward her, warning even now. I wondered whether she knew she did it, whether control had become so natural it felt like breathing. "I'm sorry," Liana said, turning to me. The room waited. Maybe they expected grace. Maybe they wanted the scholarship girl to complete the moral lesson by forgiving the fallen princess. I looked at Liana's white cardigan, at the pearl clips, at the trembling mouth that knew exactly how to tremble. "You are sorry there is evidence," I said. The lawyer objected. The panel chair told him I was allowed to respond. Liana's face crumpled, but the tears stopped again, just for a second. I saw the flash of hatred underneath, and I was grateful for it. It kept me from confusing performance with remorse. The consequences came in layers. Long-term suspension recommendations for Liana and Brielle, disciplinary action for Nina, restorative conditions only if I agreed, digital safety reporting, police referral for the unauthorized account access, removal of Liana's leadership awards pending review, and mandatory changes to how the school handled lost devices and emergency drill conduct. Suri received probation, counseling, and loss of leadership privileges but not suspension because her early objection and full statement mattered. Some people said that was unfairly lenient. Some said it was too harsh. I said nothing publicly. Privately, I hoped she used the narrow bridge she had been given and never forgot the drop beneath it. When we left the district office, reporters were not waiting. This was not that kind of story. Most cruelty does not trend. It just changes the temperature of a hallway. But outside, under a flat gray sky, Liana called my name. My mother stepped forward. I touched her arm. "It's okay." It was not, but I wanted to hear the ending myself. Liana stood near the steps with her father's car idling behind her. "You ruined my life," she said. "No tears now. No audience worth performing for." "No," I said. "I returned your phone." Then I walked away before she could make my exit part of her scene. The year did not become magically beautiful after that. I wish I could say the halls filled with applause, that everyone apologized, that I became untouchable and peaceful and universally loved. That is not how schools work, and it is definitely not how trauma works. For months, I still flinched when a phone buzzed behind me. I still checked under desks before sitting. I still hated lockdown drills with a physical, sweating intensity that made the room narrow around me. Some students avoided me because evidence makes cowards nervous. Some apologized in lazy, embarrassed ways. "Sorry I liked that post. Sorry I thought it was true. Sorry, but you have to admit it looked bad." I learned to say, "That is not an apology," and keep walking. Theo from the locker beside mine stopped barking. Once he held a door open and muttered, "That was messed up." I said, "Yes." He said, "I'm sorry." I said, "Okay." Not forgiveness.
A receipt.
Mrs. Ansell encouraged me to submit an essay on digital mobs to a statewide competition. I almost refused because the idea of turning pain into achievement felt like letting the school profit emotionally from surviving what it failed to prevent. Then I wrote it anyway, not for them. For the girl in the first life who had never been believed. The essay won second place. At the ceremony, when they called my name, I walked onto the stage and did not look for Liana in the crowd because she was no longer the center of the frame. My mother cried. Mrs. Bell clapped like she had money riding on me. Suri sent a message afterward. "You deserved first." I did not reply for 3 days. Then I wrote, "I know." It was the most arrogant thing I had ever sent, and maybe the healthiest. The final twist came in the yearbook room, because stories enjoy symmetry even when people do not. I joined yearbook after winter break for reasons that surprised everyone, including me. In my first life, the yearbook had sealed my humiliation. Liana's graduation speech, Nina's photos, the captions about kindness and resilience, all printed cleanly while my absence became a blank nobody discussed. This time, when Mrs. Ansell asked for volunteers after Nina transferred, I raised my hand. People stared. I said, "Someone should check the captions." The room did not know whether to laugh. That was fine. I had learned to enjoy unstable silence. By spring, I was editing senior features, club pages, and the emergency preparedness spread, which had been renamed from Lockdown Drill Day to Safety, Trust, and Responsibility after 3 separate parent complaints. The old draft, apparently made before the scandal, had included a photo of Liana leading student council with the caption, "Leading with compassion, even when no one is watching." I stared at it for a full minute. In another life, that caption survived. In this one, I deleted it. Not dramatically.
No sander.
Just a backspace key clicking under my finger. I replaced the entire spread with a candid photo Mrs. Bell had taken months later of students turning in lost items at the front office. Earbuds, a calculator, a house key, a cracked phone with a dinosaur sticker. The new caption read, "Integrity is not what we say during assemblies. It is what we protect when no one powerful benefits." Mrs. Ansell read it over my shoulder and said nothing for a moment. "That's strong. Too strong."
"No," she said.
"Accurate." The yearbook came out in June. Liana was not there to sign copies. Her family had moved her to a private academy 2 districts over, where I am sure she learned new lighting, new angles, maybe even new restraint. Brielle returned after suspension quieter, but not kinder, which was her problem. Suri rebuilt herself slowly, one honest inconvenience at a time. Nina never came back. The school installed a lost device lockbox outside the office and changed drill rules so no student could be sent into halls during lockdown setup. Adults praised the policy update like innovation. I knew it was a scar turned into procedure. On the last day of school, I found a phone again. Not Liana's. A freshman's, abandoned on a courtyard bench beside a half-finished iced tea. For one ridiculous second, my whole body went cold. Then the screen lit up with a message from Mom saying, "Don't forget dentist at 4." I laughed so suddenly a girl nearby jumped. I did not open it. I did not need to. I carried it to the office, placed it in the new lockbox, filled out the form, and watched Mrs. Bell stamp the receipt. "You okay?" she asked. I thought about the first life, the stairwell, the grape juice, the crown charm, the way a single unopened phone had once become the door to my ruin. I thought about being reborn not as someone fearless, but as someone who finally understood that goodness without boundaries is not goodness. It is an unlocked door in a bad neighborhood. I thought about Liana's final accusation. "You ruined my life," and how easily cruel people mistake consequence for theft. Then I thought about the girl I had been, the one who returned the phone and waited for the world to reward her decency. I wanted to reach back through time, take her hand, and tell her the truth. Being good does not mean being blind. Being kind does not mean being available for sacrifice. Returning what is lost does not require returning yourself to the people who lost the right to touch you. Mrs. Bell slid the receipt toward me. I folded it once and tucked it into my pocket like a tiny certificate of survival. Outside, the dismissal bell rang, bright and ordinary. Students poured into the sun. No whispers followed me this time, or maybe they did, and I no longer belonged to them. At the doors, my mother waited in the car, waving like she had been doing every day since the hearing because some fears leave slowly, and love does not mind repetition. I stepped into the heat, phone in my own pocket, hands empty, name clean. And when the loudspeaker crackled behind me with one final announcement about returning borrowed textbooks, I smiled because for once, everything that needed to be returned had been, except the old version of me. I left her there in the stairwell where she had died, not abandoned, not forgotten, but finally avenged.